Dengar suara saya, bagi tahu kalau
Dengar.
internet saya hang Kalau internet saya hang ke apa.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Amirul. I'm PhD, I think currently third, fourth year. So I'll use English a bit and Malay and English.
No
So
problem.
okay, saya basically background in architecture, from diploma, degree, and then master dah towards urban design. But then I found limitation of doing architectures. Now that we need to understand the whole configuration of the city, and then there's so much macam banyak problem, political problem, city planning problem, policy problem, and then lama-lama the PhD now, my major in PhD now towards planning. The minor is just architecture and landscape. But it's very hard to unlearn everything back because architecture ni dia banyak main self intuition lah, dia macam banyak main aesthetics, dia tak ada banyak layer. Faham tak? Kalau in terms of kalau planning dia ada banyak layer, banyak layer yang kita kena consider.
Ya, betul.
So now fourth year. So now my major is in space syntax lah. I think maybe some of you heard of space syntax. Okay, ada apa lagi nak tahu, or I'm in JB, Johor. Johor, JB, Johor. Why I choose Johor? And I'm still in Johor for the past tak keluar-keluar, and Johor is the most urban design problem lah. I think the design urban dia memang paling problem because Johor dia ada conflict of interest, dia ada conflict of economy, political semua because of city design, because dia always rely economy on Singapore, dia tak rely on the city centre. So right now Malaysia instead of focusing on Johor, baik dia fokus KL, Shah Alam and Penang lah. That is the real, or wilayah persekutuan yang lain, that is the real city centre yang hub. But Johor dia problem lah. So okay, ada soalan nak tanya personal or before I start my slides?
Maybe nanti Amirul boleh share your social media account, Twitter, IG or your blogspot ke, so that nanti student we reach you through the website lah, through the social media. Okay, diorang malu nak tanya sekarang ni, diorang kata PM tepi, kat tepi, so that's the student. Okay, okay, so yeah, so nanti okay, so Amirul boleh start lah present.
Okay, previously diploma, degree, master, I am extrovert person, maknanya super extrovert, banyak buat event, I think more than 10 event I was a director. But masa masuk PhD 2017, I terus jadi introvert, takut orang, social anxiety, nervous, mental semua. So I think if you found that I'm a bit macam stuck or ni, I think you can bear with me lah. Because dia tak boleh, memang I think the nature of the research itself kan, sebab belajar tak ada cikgu, tak ada apa. Bangun pagi nak belajar apa, kalau stuck in problems, I need to sleep on it for I think a week, a month or several months, and then baru study balik. And then so tu lah, tu the nature of, I think the nature of
research. Yeah. And then tambah lagi dengan online ODL, we are not allowed to go into the campus or to the office, so kita tak jumpa orang personally tau, tak jumpa orang face to face, so we only talk virtually. So itu lagi contribute pada your introvert ataupun your self isolation. So itulah, you have to do another things other than research, Amirul. I mean like Miss tengok awak dah start planting, so you have to do another thing that make you interest ataupun happy. Okay, so selain buat research, jangan terlalu yes, betul, kena fokus on your research, tapi kena balance lah between life and your career, your academic. Okay, so same goes to other students. Tapi budak degree apa je, buat thesis je, itu pun buat thesis 2 minggu dah boleh siap dah, boleh submit chapter 1 sampai chapter 5. Dia copy paste dia submit. Okay, so Amir boleh share the slide?
Okay, I'll share the slide.
Okay. Boleh tak?
I have 2 slides. The first
Mhm.
is space syntax punya introduction first, spatial,
Mhm.
and then the second is my PhD lah. I think I'll start with briefly lah what is space syntax first. I think okay. Hold on. And you guys can interrupt. I think Miss can ask me to repeat again lah if I miss some text or
Boleh.
some okay.
Ya, boleh.
If I
Kita
miss it.
kita santai and then two way communication lah. If you apa tu, ambil terlaju ke apa, you can interrupt.
Saya tak tidur sangat ni. Nervous, social anxiety. Tak mahu. Tak apa.
After
Okay.
talk ni boleh tidur. Tidur sampai maghrib.
Okay. Okay, I share my window. Okay, first space syntax. Can you see my screen? Spatial analysis tutorial. Boleh nampak screen saya? Okay, now spatial analysis tutorial is basically what is space syntax. Actually, space syntax is spatial things. I think there's so many software to understand what is spatial. Spatial is actually because there's a problem in the there's so many problem with our design, and planning often fail because we always believe in our own intuition, because we have our own agenda, but actually sometimes design and planning ni, they have something, they need to follow the nature, dia ada punya natural sprawl. But of course, there is political and economy things. Sometimes it's easy to create money from empty land because it's like a property, then bank will back property and we can print more money. Previously, we depends on gold, and then after that, now we have petroleums and everything. Now kita ada property, but now there's so many things that design and planning often fail. So spatial analysis is a type of geographic analysis. And it's terms of mathematics, and basically it's expression of mathematics and geometry. So if you search the graph mathematics theory ni, like everything is connected to everyone. Everything is connected to everything. So basically, if we understand this planning layout from kita imagine macam a city planning or residential punya neighborhood, and from housing kita trying to do logically macam like a motherboard in this picture. And because it is, of course, space syntax start from space is the machine. It was conceived by Billy and Julian Hansen. So this is where they're trying to make everything logically. And spatial is actually describe everything from the old settlements of village settlements, and then even of a beehive. This one is an ant nest, sarang semut, and then from a galaxy. Everything has their own genetically. Everything has their own coding, the DNA. Everything is still, and we need to understand this. The geometrical and mathematical connection of everything before we can impose, or we can, because everything now seems to have, everyone seems to have trying to control or trying to shape our city, based on political, based on culture, based on religion, based on economy, and then that's why somehow everything seems to be segregated to each other. So they tak over connected, and then we start to have social problems. We have to have economy problem. So so that is why. So basically, like this graph theory, from this layout, kita keluarkan to these two different graph layout. Contoh macam this one 2 exit, this one there's a 1 exit. I want to explain the equation, but I'll skip to my PhD first. I think. So for example, this is the how do we convert mathematic graph from this one complex and another complex systematic. And of course, this is another layout in gallery. I think some of you may went to Tate Modern Gallery in London, the next to the river. Surprisingly, if you see picture on the right, we convert everything into a cubic pixel, visual VGA. So, and then on the left, kita follow, this is by Space Syntax Limited, we follow 100 people. And then surprisingly, it's all, dia macam, everything seems related to the VGA. And then, because surprisingly, there's an expensive art exhibition, art painting is not being discovered by the people, because people sometimes we walk with our unconscious thinking, we walk with our subconscious mind, we walk with our logic. We don't follow view, we just walk. So if we understand space better or our planning better, sometimes we can put macam in this art gallery which expensive art to be placed, which is less expensive art to be placed, which popular art or which is highly demand, because everything has their own hierarchy in connection. But of course, we cannot believe in our intuition on planning because everything has its own mathematics. So spatial analysis is like a calculator, macam calculator mathematics. So it's helped us to do things logically. Of course, we have actual drawing, the previous one, and then segment drawing and visual graph analysis. So for example, this one by Prof. Eki, there is a German East and German West. This is actual integration. This is not real data. Real data ni macam Google Map, traffic analysis. That one is real data. Now kita back to basic, the graph mathematics theory. Meaning we can simulate and predict. Of course, there's so many software. And then when the wall collapse here, Berlin West and Berlin East, there will be no new integration line. And of course, masa ni there's abandoned spaces, and then there's a new city center or new business district, and then there's a new, and then that's happened. I think Kuala Lumpur also have problem, and when they keep shifting the centralization, like the centrality from Central Market and then to Pudu and then to Jalan Tungku Abdul Rahman, all the Dataran Merdeka, and then they shifted to KLCC and then towards Bukit Bintang and then shifted to, and then now we have so many like Bandar Tun Razak and then TRX Exchange now, and then keep shifting, and then it resulted to abandoned building, abandoned house, and then there's a social problem, economic problem. And we need to be careful to not to do this based on our personal agenda or personal. Of course, sorry. This is my complexity. I always jump topic because I think a complexity of being an ADHD person. So of course, but of course, I think planning too many men, banyak lelaki. That's why they have their own champion complexity of agenda. I think we need more female so that we can consider everyone and every aspect, every layer. Okay, so this is my methods, visual graph analysis, how I convert and overlap things. So I'll switch on to my my PhD slides for now. Okay. So far, I hope everyone okay. Hold on. My PhD slide. Okay, so my PhD slides this is previous topics. I think the previous title. Spatial visibility and static activity in street node livability. I didn't manage to update the title. So basically, I understand static activity. Faham tak? Static. Because now everyone seems to think about movement. human, we have two things, which is static and movement. So movement is always based on economic movement lah. So kita nak bergerak laju, nak gerak laju, but somehow we always forget to stop, to slow our times, appreciate our environments, and static activities will always help us in our mental health lah. We always help us to understand our existence, always help us to make sense of our daily life on everything. So static activities, humans yang tak bergerak, like waiting, will kita kalau if we count number of static activities people on street, we will know that if there's higher static activities, meaning there is good quality of environment. Sebab previously we always count berapa banyak orang lalu, like how many pedestrian move, how many cars, like transport engineering always counts all the transport impact assessments and all the development assessment, but we always forgot to count which place is livable, which place is habitable, so people can stop, appreciate environments and talk to each other. Wait, as simple as playing phone or stop like smoking or wonders, read books, painting, to appreciate environment. That one is good for livable. So this is actually research framework, but now I summarize this everything to objective one. So but this one is I show objective 1, 2, and 3 something, but now everything is objective 1. Later I will show everything later. So the next one will be this one, static activity. So from Yangel, I split 3 types of activity. So NOR. So necessary activity is browsing, waiting, phone call, wayfinding, and smoking. Ni macam diri je, tak buat apa-apa. It's just one individual person. And necessary activity doesn't really depends on the environment lah. Walaupun tempat tu whether that environment is dirty or noisy, necessary activity will always be there. Tempat tu kotor, busuk ke, bising ke, tak cantik, buruk, hancur ke, even tempat tu dah pecah sebab kena bom perang, necessary activity will always be there. That is just an indicator. And then the next one is optional activity, like eating, drinking, photograph, and reading. That one is related to quality of physical environment. So the environment should be beautiful. So and then contoh nak makan pun kena ada tempat yang tak bau busuk, tempat yang cantik. Even we take picture on environment yang beautiful environment. And then third one is resultant activity. Resultant activity is social activity. It requires 2% and more. Sometimes necessary activity, if we increase, it will create more resultant activities. But optional activity doesn't really depend on necessary or resultant activities. It depends on the environment itself. But of course, previous researcher doesn't really do the quantifying the data, like betul-betul kira number of people or betul-betul do quantitative analysis because now everything we need to base on data and analysis. So this is static activities. They always manifest informal relationship to the land use. And then people always observe street and people always perform activity at this wherever they find suitable. And then sometimes people stand against planter box, lamppost, even sometimes there's a opportunity. Sometimes that's why the element of street is also important when people interact. But sometimes people don't understand why they interact. It's just subconsciously interact. I think if you travel through so many cities, you will appreciate why the landscapes or the planning of Malaysia, and then if you can compare, and then you feel in the new place you will feel anxious because We need new wayfinding. We need new weather also affect our presence in in city or in environment. And in Malaysia, 5 foot walkways are kaki lima. It's always the intimate space. And there's another research that homeless people were choosy in choice of resting space. That one is also another topic. We always think we want to control homeless people, but actually it's just a resting space. We cannot solve homeless people problem. I think it's just a short-sighted solution. Because every great cities in the world, homeless people will always be there. Because sometimes it depends on the mental health and everything. But the real bigger solution is always to distribute this kind of people and to integrate with the society. Even London, New York, or Sydney, or all the great cities in the world, every great city in the world have homeless people. So we cannot, kalau kita buat tempat tu not comfortable of homeless people pun, it doesn't solve. We need to create better connectivity, better integration, because nowadays everything is about integration. So there's another visual philosophy of how humans think. That the first is prospect and refuge theory. The idea of to see without being seen as a primitive human behavior. I think towards our civilization or even in animal, it's biological needs. When people like to prospect but not to be seen and then to be refuge. Kita tak nak orang nampak kita, tapi kita nak tengok orang. Dia macam safety lah, keselamatan diri kita. And macam tempat yang luas, yang bila ramai orang tengok kita pun kita akan rasa nervous. That's why there's another theory yang sometimes streets or public space is like a theater. We always perform with another people. Kita selalu seolah-olah kita berlakon di atas jalan. When we walk or when we start going out on the public space or public street. And sometimes if we anxiety, we anxious, we want to see another people, but we don't want another people to see us. And then there's the ecological based theory. Enclosed space promote relaxation, comfort, happiness. Macam like alley or macam lorong-lorong, and even and then there's a concept of panopticism. This one by Michael Foucault. A permanent state of control and power through visibility. Who is subjected to a field of visibility and knows it. It feels constrained by the power of being seen. It's like bila kita nampak orang, kita rasa kita berkuasa. It's like we have more power. This is also complexity. Sometimes there's a human that need more power. I think when I trying to find why do budak-budak lelaki suka duduk belakang kelas, or budak-budak nakal, or budak-budak like men duduk belakang bus, sometimes they want to have more power, I think, and that's why another masculine complexity. Sometimes people or a government want to see, or sometimes military tempat yang dia nak more power so that we can observe. This one also in the prison, when we want to see all people in the prison to watch everyone. And then there's the edge effect, space along facade and transitional zone. This one by Yangel. People always like to sit at the macam next to the shop, next to the building, macam tepi kedai, because it's popular zone when we can relax and survey people in the middle of space. And then there's the activity around borders. People enjoy looking at the pedestrian flow. This is like, that's why people attract another people, and that also how. And then my another manifesto for this PhD actually, how do we promote street as public space? How do we promote street nodes as public square? Because street nodes is actually the biggest perspective. Because in third world country, we have problems actually to provide open space. Even though open space, especially in the business district, because it's a land scarcity. Tanah sangat mahal. Semua orang nak beli tanah. I think if you are in planning departments, I think we will have like encroachments, like colonization, like macam all capitalists nak beli tanah-tanah institution, all want to buy the institution land, everyone wants to buy open space, gazetted space, everyone want to buy. Semua sanggup berjuta-juta, berbilion-bilion duit dekat tengah-tengah bandar because everyone wants to make profit out of it. So especially third world country, when it's hard to develop, we always rely on economy rather than about us being a better humans. Is sometimes we always left with street notes lah. Kita tinggal simpang or open space at street notes where people can have open space to mingle, to interact with environment, to interact with each other, or to interact or to relieve ourselves, to breathe. Sebab most of open space, sometimes even all open space nak buat, sorry ada macam run kan, macam marah pula. Semua temporary tanah kosong nak buat jadi parking sementara, nak apply permit, temporary permit, but everyone have all political and economic agenda and semualah. But last kita tinggal jalan parking jalan but open street, but we don't have public space for our mental health or for our livable. Imagine orang yang duduk PPR, rumah-rumah yang sempit, they need ruang kelegaan, ruang lega or the open relief space. So this is from previous study, the VGA, how I can convert space into a complex pixel, and then we understand which is the high exposure space or less exposure. So warna merah, red light, is the most exposed space, and blue and green and blue is the low. Even in space syntax, we can describe which place is high livable or high connected or high. Sometimes changing the land use or land title doesn't really affect the economy. Sometimes it's all about connectivity, which is connected to which, siapa, apa, part mana yang. Even now, economy doesn't really rely on vehicular anymore. Kereta pun sebenarnya ialah business punya, economy punya movement. Now all rely on pedestrian and public transport. It's now becoming the centralized economy punya movements lah. Because we need to understand semua orang yang jalan kaki or everyone walks also bring money, bawa duit or bring transfer economy to everything. And of course people attracted when there's another people around. So static activities help people to move around and appreciate space. And of course we want to make space look safe. There's also Eyes on Street by Jane Jacobs also. So this I established how do we recognize another people from young girl. So 50 and 70 meters, we can recognize distance, body language. But 22 to 25 meters, we can recognize emotion and facial expression. Kita kenal orang lah. So this is my radius, and then so the literature framework. So I do case study for all these. There's all nodes in JB, Johor Bahru Heritage District. So I focus only in between buildings mostly. But of course, this is also dying city because we have changed our connection from Singapore, the causeway, to JB City Centre. We shifted away with the new CIQ. So, but there's so many things every year. I think more than 10, 15 years for JB Transformation District. We're trying to increase the placemaking and everything, but actually the problem is connectivity. Kita dah try cantikkan bangunan, cantikkan jalan, cantikkan semua lah. So dengan singgit buka tutup, hancur, buka balik, 10 billions, 100 millions, I think now almost 300 to 400 millions punya impact, but doesn't really, but the problem is because the connectivity because of which space is connected to which space. Of course, JB ni dia banyak tanah sultan, tanah bandar, like Bukit Timbalan, all the restricted area, and then there's a land railway that create strong boundary edges, and everything is segregated to each other. But now it's not really a city center. So I do a static activity snapshots Oh, this is really tiring because I actually every day pagi sampai malam record people, snapshots, I map out activity. It's like watching people, like watching animal in the zoo, macam trying to understand why humans behave this way, why humans stand, sit, even watch people sleeping. I watch people, it's like, so this is why sometimes most of the extrovert energy jadi introvert energy. Every day, berpeluh-peluh on streets, interact with people will interact me, strangers, macam-macam lah. If I tell you all about the sexual harassment pun takkan habis. I tell you about the crimes, all the people, how do people buat crime to each other pun takkan habis. I use action cams GoPro on my body, so I will record, and there's a double check Sekejap need to drink water drinks. Nervous pula.
So Amirul, you use action camera and then put it in your body so that you boleh record, you boleh ada masa dia tentukan, ada period dia kan, how many minutes you record dia tu, ataupun the whole day masa dekat site.
Oh, dia ada time interval. Maknanya I start 8 to 9 and then ada tengah hari. Tengah hari like 12 to 1 and then there's evening. Evening is like 4 to 6, but every snapshot is just 5 minutes 5 minutes. And then to make it more relatable, meaning I will mix weekend, macam kalau hari ni ambil hari Isnin, next week I will mix with Wednesday. And then macam kalau weekends, weekdays lain pula. And Johor problems weekender Saturday je, Sabtu je.
Betul.
Kalau hujan lebat, kalau hujan lebat, ada festival, kena tunggu lagi minggu depan. So,
ya, betul. Hari Jumaat pun orang, I think kalau Johor cuti hari Jumaat pun the people tak keluar going out buat apa tu, wondering kan, dia just stay at home je kot sebab hari Jumaat ada Friday prayers kan.
Betul. It doesn't affect because there's a macam public private sectors, dia tak ada bank, dia tak.
Betul.
I don't agree lah yang Friday tu because actually we need to follow all the economy punya movement like KL ataupun dekat dunia. Tapi it's always have conflict lah. Ni city planning ni, all people's life ada conflict in politics, culture.
Yang I think yang decide to have Johor Jumaat dengan Sabtu is 2014 kot.
2014, betul.
2014. I think it announced by Sultan Johor. Dia yang nak Jumaat dicutikan di Johor because of dia nak all the men pergi Friday prayers. But unfortunately, it doesn't happen pun sebenarnya. You still lagi boleh duduk dalam rumah nyorok tak solat. So itu je sebenarnya dia punya excuse untuk ada hari Jumaat tu cuti. So I think sebenarnya better ikut global ataupun KL lah for the economic purpose. You tak, I don't know, maybe one fine day Johor nak jadi one of Islamic city other than Kota Baru.
That's the irony lah. I think if we do city planning, all these little things, the effect the city's configuration, human movement, semua the effect. I think somehow I'm glad lah because I have I'm not shy to admit my mental. I have ADHD. ADHD ni dia attention deficit and hyperactive. Maknanya I always think everything at the same time sampai tak boleh nafas. It's a biological. Dia masalah budak-budak lah, macam masalah budak kecil lah. Tapi when I grow up, it doesn't really remove hilang. Maknanya so I always consider everything in architecture sampai I cannot do architecture actually. I need to do urban design where I can consider every aspect. So here I am buat benda ni. So all the things political, cultural, religions, even society punya or everything, jenis perniagaan or jenis policy, if when they announce new policy, it would affect all the human activities And of course, I base on spatial analysis with space syntax to actually help me to have focus, balance with the logic thinking. So basically this one, I have another one. But thank you, Miss, for interacting with me with the things. Okay, can I continue? Okay. So this is the data. I think I collected even for 2 days punya data. It's around 2,000 for 13 nodes, 12 nodes, 2,000 number of statics So this is the basic ratio necessary activity, ocean resultant. And then there's a space that have high resultant activities, but uh, I don't read my slides. I'll just I'll just explain briefly so that you can just stare here and then briefly. The problem with JBCT, the street elements they don't have always good street elements. Building elements doesn't really affect. We always believe on land use element. So this is element use. We have street element, building element, and land use element. So we always rely on land use element. When there is a problem with our city configuration planning, we always like, kita buat pasar malam lah, kita buat bazar karat lah, kita buat, tak apalah, kita bagi penjaja tepi jalan lah, tak apalah, kedai boleh extend sampai tepi jalan. But the real problem is actually the street elements and the building element. But now, slowly, Think Cities came in, Think City trying to rejuvenate the building. So now people give attention to building. There's lots of street arts, mural, there's lots of all the backlane activation. But still, it's hard because even Think City always have conflict with city authorities, state agenda. Ada Johor pun ada agenda dia sendiri, and Johor kan ada dia punya state company like other ones to company yang based on sovereign of Johor, and then there's a monarchy. I don't want to touch that part, but that's why in previous life I always do the social engagement, and then sometimes start to penetrate into political and culture, and then it's really hard. I think it's really hard. Now that we need really, and then IRDA trying to came in, IRDA for Iskandar Regional Development Authority, always have conflict with MBJB, and then conflict with all the city local authority, and then we have apa contoh macam Johor Corp, J-Corps or Damansara Asset, or all the sovereigns states company, they have their own property, and then now we have all macam RNF, Country Garden, and tu dah start masuk Forest City, and we always conflict with this, but slowly but it's very late macam it takes 5-6 years to reactivate Sungai Segates or reactivate the building. Now I think during the lockdown last years, we have good street elements. Think Cities came to rejuvenate the street elements, so we have less parking, more street spaces for people. But unfortunately, COVID came. Nasib baik saya dapat collect data before COVID. I can always collect data for COVID also, and then I can compare COVID interaction of static activities and then after COVID. But I think it's 4 years now. I think my PhD tak siap-siap. I'll move on. So there's a frequency of static activities according to street, building, and land use element. Land use is always have the highest. Street elements is low. Building element is the lowest. Now we have increase in street element, hopefully, meaning the pavement, ada banyak open spaces a bit, kita kurangkan car parking. This is a significant ratio lah. the problem with data sometimes every day I need to do the p-value and all the like single tail, two tail, all the numbers, so that's my hypothesis can be validated, or if the hypothesis cannot be any, I need bigger data, or if it's not validated, I need to merge it with another variable. So this is the tree distribution. Mean is the average, and then standard deviation is the focus of which peak. So I can understand set activities focus in which visual graph the connectivity area. Maknanya there's a space that people focus crowd on high exposure. Maknanya ada satu tempat yang semua orang duduk dekat tempat yang semua orang nampak. Contoh macam backlane lah, backlane. Because dia promote intimate space, ataupun overhang. Contohnya kalau kita extend bumbung tu overhang, itu pun kita dapat better macam from exposure of sunlight and everything. And then kalau sometimes kalau open space sangat, kadang kena slate tepi kereta parking and nak jalan to appreciate, and then tempat kotor, and then it will disturb also. And then kita ada skewness and kurtosis lah. That one is another which peak dia focus. Is it tendency towards high peakness or tendency toward low peakness? So and of course we have so basically this is high connectivity value of open space, and then there's a low connectivity value in open space, which space and which spaces. And there's a tendency of high connectivity value, and then there's a tendency of low connectivity value. And then, so this is VGA value distribution comparing to necessary, optional, and resultant. So if you can see, option activity always below, has low measure of spread. And then option activity dekat certain space ada banyak tempat yang high. And option activity still consider low. Dia adalah tempat yang cantik lah. Of course kita ada district yang building yang cantik, and street element, street art yang cantik. But resultant activities always focus on certain aspect so I'll just, and then there's a comparing to street element, building element, land use element, this one. So this is, I thought this will be my alta for my PhD, but still it's in PhD in my first objective. So these factors actually still affected by strict designer's intention or static activities preference. Ini dah start. Ini pun setahun juga nak keluar benda ni. Maknanya dah tidur berbulan-bulan baru faham yang, oh, baru objektif 1. Padahal dah 3 tahun lah buat PhD. So the problem with designing our city or designing our spaces, actually throughout the years, we design and perceive at the same time. Boleh faham tak? Macam kita design space, and then kita hidup dalam space tu. And then space tu dia affect balik kita punya pemikiran. And then kita trying to change our configuration of our building, land use, or street element. And then kita redesign balik. So dari redesign tak habis. Bertahun-tahun dia redesign balik, design. Tapi orang still tak duduk dekat tempat duduk tu. People didn't sit at that bench. People don't use that rubbish area. People don't interact to that mural because that street art is hidden. Orang tak nampak. Building tu kita encourage yang cantik, but people don't see. It's dia conflict lah, because sometimes city authorities, city planners have their own intention, but humans, the crowd, doesn't really follow the intention of the designers of street and the city. So dia dah rotunda balik. Dia stuck in the loop balik. Like a snake eating its own tail. Dia macam dia stuck. We design, we perceive. We design, we perceive. We construct, we perceive. And then that is why I think space syntax or segment analysis came in for my second objective. This one doesn't have in my slide. So I will share my second objective in my segment analysis. So I stop sharing before I any question before I move a bit to my Excel, my second objective? Any things that you want to interact with me? Okay. Hold on, I try to switch on my spacing text. File open. I switch on my screen, your entire screen. Okay, I'm sharing my, can you see my screen? Hold on, data analysis segment. So I cannot make sense of everything now. So I'll do my spacing text here. This is my spacing text simulation. If you could see here, we nampak. So from analysis here, I now understand trying to describe the configuration of city. So previously this road, this length is connected to Singapore. And I use this one for 2.5 kilometer. I use the inner middle ring road as the edges. Of course, middle ring road always be the edges and boundary of everything. Even Akle also separate KLCC from Kampung Baru. But now we have Salumaling. So this is, and then there's another for 5 kilometers. Analysis. So I'll do correlation. So this is how Johor connected to Singapore. This is Singapore. And then I do 2.5 and 5 kilometers. So
Amirul, sorry miss interrupt. So yang Singapore tu, so you maksudnya you draw the exit lines dekat Singapore lah?
This one I use segment. Segment I download from OpenStreetMap. Mana I use GIS software. GIS tu I terus convert jadi lines yang I terus simulate the analysis.
I see, okay.
Kalau draw axial line, tak siap-siap lah. I think
dah tu, satu Singapura nak kena buat.
My previous senior ada 2-3 orang buat PhD, I think 4-5 years ago, everyone do axial analysis. So lukis JB setahun tak siap-siap lukis JB.
Yelah, exactly. Satu JB kot besar nak buat axial line tu.
So now I use segments. So I'll do contohnya 500 meters integration. 500 meter. Integration is not connectivity. Integration is the average of all connectivities relating to which distance or which, itu distance kalau by metric lah, equation. Kalau tak, kita use topological lah, maknanya berapa step 1, step 2, step 3 kan, macam that one is axial. So now we use segments. So integration of 500 meters to 750 meters, itu average orang jalan kaki or people walking. And then there's another integration for 1 kilometers or to 2 kilometers. That one is like how do cars roams around. I think that one also keep changing actually, because people can walk 500 to 1 kilometer if the space is really nice or tempat-tempat tu memang cantik pavement dia, macam ada attractor. Malaysia tak boleh jalan lebih dari 1 kilometer. Dia kalau overseas kita boleh jalan 2-3 kilometer if you went to overseas like Korea or UK or Japan, we can walk because the weather is ni. But Malaysia 500, but now we need to consider of people walking and people walking because now integration in everything in our economy and in our city development. So I trying to do correlation here. So there's several correlation to static activities. So there's so many analysis here. berbulan-bulan buat benda ni. And then to my surprise, actually people prefer less integrated spaces. Faham tak? Dia untuk in between space for intimate crowd punya gathering. So of course evening is the highest lah. Of course if we do evening, it's really good weather lah. Malaysia evening macam petang pukul 4 sampai nak dekat malam, kita punya livable space memang selalu malam. Macam pasar malam or I think uptowns or downtowns punya pasar bazar karat or I think anything street vendors petang malam tu always has higher livable index lah for people. And then to my surprise, optional activities and resultant always rely on less integrated. Meaning that this is something that is hard to describe because dia subconscious tau. Maknanya when we roam around a city, macam bila kita jalan, kita tahu yang kita tak nak kat tempat yang highly integrated. Kita akan masuk secondary or tertiary. This one related to another advancement from my supervisor's PhD, Dr. Sharifah, sociability and accessibility. People always choose secondary or tertiary road. Maknanya lorong, kan ada primary road, secondary, tertiary road based on the which artery veins of macam main road kan, macam high speed, jalan yang high speed. So secondary, tertiary road, people akan ada more intimate gathering spaces kalau kita create, macam kalau nak reactivate back lane untuk high livable index, high livable street punya, macam nak buat tourism street ke. Even kat Bukit Bintang pun secondary and tertiary road, contoh semua orang nampak the main road kat depan pavilion lah, tapi sebenarnya secondary and tertiary road tu macam kita lupa kat Jalan Cangkat, Jalan Aloh yang sampai apa tu, semua buka kedai makan seafood kat atas jalan sampai crowded kan. Tu tertiary road punya connectivity. Even that one also described well in spatial analysis in space syntax. And even so I think I will hold on. I will share. I will share this one in the next paper. I think, of course, land use element, but this one also have their own loops, meaning that which is affected by which. Sometimes this one land use elements have highest integration value, correlation value with spatial integration. Maknanya now which is affected by which. So now if we do building element and street element, does it affect? So this is like the thing in statistics kita kena buat extrapolation lah. Of course I have hypothetical for the new connectivity of JB where I trying to connect the new, what if this connect to which, and then is it going to affect the static activities of JB? Contohnya like if you can see this post here, this is also my second objectivenya outcomes. Historical connectivity, everyone walks, but now the problem is towards the modernism. I think start in 70s, we always trying to disregard people walk, and we like to unlearn that the great cities in the world always start with walking. I think that's why I always fond with Penangs, because before we introduce bridge to Penangs, the cities always rely on people on foot, orang jalan kaki. So the spaces all intimate. Of course, there's a traffic jam, but now that they want to have public transport like LRT and monorail later on, of course, use money when they build artificial island, and they will print money, billions of money from that as a back for the economy. But when we conserve that city of Georgetown, it's really intimate. But JB is a mess when they always rely to Singapore, because 1/3 of JB people work in Singapore. Maknanya kalau baling batu, kena kat kepala orang yang kerja kat Singapore. That's why no one's actually give a damn or give care about the urban design of JB, because if JB there's no job, you just go to Singapore, and then Singapore 3-4 hours of mental health problems when kita start traffic jam. There's another data I don't want to touch if there's a correlation. Johor Bahru have the highest cancer statistic, but I'm not sure if it's related to mental, with stress, anxiety, and problems and everything. So, and then so now how do we make Johor Bahru livable? It's always being forgotten because JB is now becoming the secondary city like Shenzhen of Hong Kong. So JB is like suburbs of Singapore. It's not really. So I hope I hope there's a new connectivity of like ETS train to KL or even high-speed rail to KL so that it will focus more on the central. So this is what I try to focus on. And then I have several spatial. So I have problem with these laptops too. It's also tends to get overheat. So now the screen jadi blur. I trying to open back my laptop. So I stop sharing first.
Ya, memang kalau buka dev map tu dia quite I think because you tengok dia guna 60 feet 64 bit ataupun yang paling kecil berapa? Yang paling rendah. So dia akan your laptop akan hang, akan overheat, akan lag. So kena banyak bersabar bila guna dev map tu, especially when you want to run the configuration tu kan. You dah buat Azilan and then you nak run the configuration. Okay, right. So maybe while waiting, Amirul ada nak tunjuk lagi ke ataupun
I think I can stop for now.
Okay.
While switching on another laptop. So
Alright.
I can open for discussion. Kalau nak discuss, we can talk about from my perspective.
Nice. Okay. Alright. So we have the questions from Nur Amira. Assalamualaikum. Hi. I have a questions regarding why land urban conflict is specifically related to the urban roadkill. We all knew that alterations of habitat due to the presence of the roads and development could force animals into close contact with the vehicular traffic, which frequently causes mortality. So my questions is, how can we cope this problem in urban design perspective? Thank you. So the translation is Amira nak tanya, what can urban design contribute to reduce the cost of mortality among species ataupun animals yang like kita tengok banyak case, even kalau you are stay in Puncak Alam pun kita tengok banyak animal, contohnya macam tapir yang mati kat jalan kena langgar by the roadkills, monyet. So in the perspective of urban design, what can urban design do to reduce the risk of animals roadkills? Ni macam luar daripada topik sebenarnya.
Dia luar daripada topik, tapi I can give my perspective lah. I think because my spatial analysis always describe that cities always based on economy tau. And then when we build city based on economy, because why do we based on economy? Because economy lah yang kita print duit from scratch. Kita print duit because kita loan from the future. And duit ni kita akan bayar orang untuk buat jalan. All the labor yang buat jalan ni, buruh-buruh binaan, kita kena bagi dia duit. Tapi duit tu kita tak ada, so kita kena print from the future. So I think when we try to create all roads, memang the first species yang akan extinct will be the vegetation. The second will be the animal. I think it's hard to consider unless if we are first world country where we have good currency, then we can spend on connectivity for tapir untuk or animal yang untuk lintas from this district to this district. You know, when we introduce connectivity, the connectivity actually is the edges. Dia macam boundary, dia split to district tau. Dia split dua zone. So nanti species pun ada zone dia juga, macam this animal nak come back to this, so dia kena lintas jalan. So even we don't even address how humans to cross street. Even kita nak buat pedestrian cross, orang pun malas nak naik jejantas. So jejantas pun sekarang jadi tempat homeless untuk tidur. Orang nak buang air kat situ. And then macam mana kita nak create empathy untuk animal to cross. The reason, the simple solution is kita yang sendiri kena alihkan animal ni macam kita alihkan orang asli, penempatan orang asli dekat Malaysia. Banyak penempatan orang asli kat Malaysia kena ni, tapi kita sibuk cerita pasal Palestin punya isu lah. Tapi banyak orang asli yang kena halau daripada tanah dia, tapi kita tak bagi dia land rights, kita tak bagi dia land title, tanah, akta tanah untuk dia. So this is the irony lah for economy. I hope tak tahu Malaysia boleh address this empathy for this animal lah.
Betul. Kalau dekat overseas, even ada development ataupun ada new development in a certain area macam forest ke, you nak buka tanah baru ke. So I think in Netherlands they have the specific bridge for animals untuk cross. Kalau you aware dengan that kind of design and technology, I can't remember punya nama specific bridge tu, but memang special for animal to cross sebab dia buat a new highway. And in Malaysia I think pun ada satu dekat Pahang that cross from the national taman negara tu to another area lah, so bawah tu jalan. Kita ada, but tapi maybe itu in Pahang, but in Selangor because of the rapid development, rapid urbanization, I think Selangor tak ada lagi. But Jabatan Perkhilitan and Perhutanan dah take an initiative lah untuk buat tu, but masih lagi belum menyeluruh. But it's quite good, good questions by Amira on her what kind of urban planner or designer can contribute to protect the special species macam tapir, gajah, harimau bintang yang nak almost pupus ni kan. I think it's a good questions. Okay, so the next questions from Ahmad Fitri, what is the indicators that you observe at the site, like what type of people behavior that you observe? So dia punya soalan dia tanya Amira what type of people behavior, maksudnya apa jenis-jenis behavior yang awak observe dekat site.
Okay, the first is static behavior, maknanya people yang tak gerak. Of course, we can argue lah, there's a semi-movement, maknanya if one people reading books and then after that 30 seconds, dia move a bit 2 langkah ke depan, 2-3 steps and then they take phone. So the behavior is necessary, option and resultant behavior lah. Necessary is the people waiting alone. Second, people interacting with environment, like readings, eatings, people taking pictures, or even appreciating environment, macam dia observe. Third is the social activity, the resultant activity, and that one is interaction. People jual barang, contoh macam orang bagi flyer, ataupun orang yang nak jual insurans ke, ataupun orang yang minta derma. So that one is interaction lah, ataupun people talk to each other. Tiba-tiba jumpa kawan kat tengah-tengah jalan, jumpa orang yang dia kenal. So that behavior of that is the indicators lah, that can use as my indicator, because I see people as data. Dia macam people count vehicular, I count people. Of course, I would really hope that even if in China there's a camera that can take data of people, dia ada boleh ambil gambar semua orang, and then dia record berapa orang lalu, berapa orang tak bergerak. Even kalau orang nak gaduh, CCTV dia boleh detect. There's algorithm lah. And then, but now I have limitation on that lah. So
so kalau ikut Amira punya explanation, so you have necessary activity, optional activities, resultant and static activity. So in total he have 4 types of activities that he observed dekat site. Okay, so activity tu nanti Amira dah observe, and then you will mapping dekat dalam map, and then baru compare the result dengan your SPSS, your punya data daripada observation tu lah yang akan guna kita nak tentukan which road yang ada higher integration, yang ada higher connectivity. Kan tadi Amira ada tunjuk slide yang ada red colour, and then mostly Miss tengok dekat jalan-jalan yang Amirul observe tu semua merah ataupun color merah lah, yang maksudnya higher integration ataupun higher connectivity dekat intersection, dekat simpang. Betul tak Amirul?
Visual graph analysis dekat tengah-tengah memang dia high exposure. Maknanya dia memang semua orang boleh nampak kalau duduk kat tengah-tengah. Tapi the irony is tengah-tengah tu ialah jalan. Maknanya kereta lalu. Kalau duduk yang tengah, kita akan nak langgar lah. Tapi kalau in heritage district, kita dah guna mixed use. Maknanya pavement ni kita dah tukar. Maknanya kereta lalu, dia akan tahu, oh ni pun orang lalu juga sebab that pavement tu diguna untuk street vendors, untuk bazar karat apa semua. So people akan tak nak, people would not stand at the center unless kalau there's activity at the center. Maknanya kita boleh tutup jalan tu, kita buat street performance atau tiba-tiba ada orang main gitar ataupun buat busking ataupun taking pictures and that one is for VGA lah. Kalau segment pula, dia kalau banyak line connected to the end line, baru line tu merah. So macam tu lah. And I compare with people dengan space syntax lah, dengan of course SPSS and LYSIS lah. So ada question lain or thank you very much. Say thank you. Check ending.
Assalamualaikum. I have a question tentang human activities. I need to do human activity analysis tapi sekarang tengah pandemic so kena analisis secara online. So my question is macam mana nak buat kajian and analisis secara online. So how to convert the participant observation into online. So Amira mungkin ada tips macam mana nak buat observe online?
Dia bunyi macam tips tapi I give you several research method lah. Contohnya kita ada GPS punya tracing software website, contohnya macam heat map or heat something yang we can see how many people move based on our real time data. Maknanya macam kadang-kadang kita tengok kat Google Map ada traffic jalan kan, so kat situ kita boleh tunggu pukul 8 kita tengok traffic, kita dah nampak colour dia, petang, tengah hari kita boleh nampak. Even people movement pun, people standing kita ada heat map tracing. That one is another and then we can compare that with our development lah, which kita tahu kenapa tempat tu tak hidup or tempat tu abandoned or tempat tu no activity. But and then there's another one yang this one is another later data lah. Kadang sometimes people do research with hashtag or take pictures in Instagram and Facebook, Twitter. Bila kita letak location tags tu, kita tag, oh I'm at this location, kita boleh create another research topics yang how do people really think that place is worth to be included in social media, and then we can calculate all the data and then kita boleh compare with connectivity and kita boleh compare with land use, kita boleh compare with size of area land. Tapi of all these things, the things that I always have things to advise is you must stretch your attention longer. Maknanya kalau buat thesis ni, dia data tu takkan siap minggu ni, kita kena tak apa malam ni tidur, esok sambung lagi, kira data satu-satu, kira ni satu-satu, tak dapat tidur, esok sambung lagi. Sebab kita selalu siap assignment yang esok nak hantar, hari ni baru buat. Esok nak hantar, minggu lepas baru buat.
Last minute.
Dia takkan dapat buat thesis macam kita buat assignment. Kita kena baca, tak faham.
It's a process sebenarnya. It's a process,
Tapi kita faham lah kadang-kadang lecturer kan push, minta draft. Tapi itu yang kita kena make peace lah, kena aman, kena tenang.
You need your own world sebenarnya bila nak buat research, nak menulis, even nanti in future pun all the student nanti part 7 dah start buat thesis, part 8 and then dah nak kena submit, so dengan subjek lagi, but I understand, but this your choice, whatever it is, kan memang kena habiskan degree juga. Okay, and then we have another questions juga daripada Ahmad Fitri. The way you observe is like you stay in one point and you observe within 360 degree view or what ways? I mean, dia nak tanya macam mana Amirul ambil observation tu. Is it you stand static ataupun you walk around ke?
I had a picture of me, but I will circle around that notes. Maknanya I with body cam and then I have my dashboard. maknanya I pegang board kertas, and then I have my timer, stopwatch. I will walk on, contohnya I focus on street notes kat junction je. So dekat junction tu I will view 360 degree, and then I will circle around for 5 minutes. I cannot move for 5 minutes sebab pattern tu akan berubah, because this is also how another people standing also affect. Contoh macam kalau orang isap rokok kat sini, orang takkan ambil gambar dekat sebelah dia, because asap rokok akan affect dia. Sama macam how do crowds to effect of each other. Even as simple as when we put bench, tempat duduk, dia akan affect each other. So that's the thing lah. I walk, I gerakkan badan 360 and then I walk around that street notes. Of course there ada unreliability in data lah, tapi 2-3 number kalau error tu or 5 it is acceptable, and then I need to check with my p value. Bila p value tu kata error, maknanya that notes tu kena bigger data ataupun that notes tu tak dipakai. Maknanya I have 20 notes tapi I remove another 8 notes because the p value doesn't really match. Stress juga tu.
Yeah, okay. So maksudnya Ahmad Fitri beli body dash cam nanti nak buat observation for this ke, kalau nak sambung master by research macam Amirul ke, so you kena beli body cam. Senang nanti nak buat observation. And then I saw kalau rider yang naik motor pun sekarang pun diorang dah pakai body cam kan, and then dah banyak kita tengok
100 je. Kalau GoPro 1000 lebih lah. Kita body cam yang China RM100.
Yeah. Maybe Amirul boleh drop the Shopee link nanti the student boleh beli body cam tu, dash cam tu. Okay. So dekat Shopee banyak. I think that is another way how you conduct observation, sebab kita kadang-kadang kalau kita guna 100% on our, mungkin ada mistake, mungkin ada error. So body cam ni ataupun action cam ni is one of the alternative to record the observation lah. So you boleh compare, atau macam tadi Amir kata kalau silap ke observation tak ada masalah. Okay, this is the error, human error ataupun technical error. Okay, ada lagi soalan? Kalau tak Miss nak tanya. My questions, Amirul, so you buat observation waktu siang, weekday saja dengan weekend, and then malam, how about malam? Because kalau according to your site, Heritage District dekat jalan Tan Hock Ni tu is malam ada bazar karat, is it? So macam mana dia punya changes in terms of behavior ataupun activity ataupun maybe bazar karat tu boleh effect pada human activity ataupun movement?
Bazar, firstly I include bazar karat, but I overwhelm lah bazar karat. Bazar karat dia too crowded. Meaning bazar karat dah jadi my limitation for my PhD. Maknanya I didn't include night, because night I do humans visual, how do environment affect. At night, the environment affected by lighting. Maknanya ada tempat yang during daylight it's really beautiful, cantik, but at night there's no light. And then it affected my connectivity in space in text. And then bazar karat is something land use elements punya policy making. Dia doesn't really naturally grow with the cities punya configuration. Dia adalah intervention. So I put it aside, and then because kalau bazar karat I can get, kalau selalunya at one place I can get 50 people or 100 people at one notes. Kalau bazar karat I can get like 5 minutes sampai 200, 300. I cannot that. Dia jadi problem. And then bazar karat punya land use element dia ada banyak obstruction, maknanya dia ada meja-meja, kursi orang, and ada penghadang-penghadang dia semua yang tu. I can do bazar karat, but bazar karat will be another PhD topic ah. That ada jadi limitation the night life.
Nightlife. Alright, so ada lagi soalan? Any questions from the student? Ada soalan nak tanya? Anything nak tanya experience Amirul guna space syntax, because in future nanti your final project pun akan guna space. and then what should be ready before guna spacing text, ataupun Amirul continue. Tak ada nak tanya, dah kena masa baru dia nak tanya student ni. Anything from orang Johor? Nabila ada, Afiq ada, siapa lagi orang Johor yang very familiar dengan Johor Bahru?
Miss, saya ada pertanyaan Miss.
Okay, apa dia? Silakan.
Tadi Cik Mira kata dia pakai AJIS untuk segmen yang dia masuk daripada AJIS, masuk daripada DevMap. So yang data AJIS tu dia pakai data land use ke ataupun dia pakai yang street view je?
Oh, okay.
Tanya Amirul.
Saya ambil line je dalam, saya tak guna RG, saya guna QGIS. QGIS dia algorithm based GIS, dia open source. So kat situ kita integrate Google Map dengan, kat situ kita boleh integrate Google Map, OpenStreetMap ataupun satellite. Kat situ so I just download the segment line je. Yang land use tu I just indicate on paper, maknanya I just indicate manually by observation. I didn't use data from the GIS. Of course in QGIS, the quantum GIS ni, we can do spacing text in QGIS juga, because there's spatial analysis in that, but I haven't master in that lah. Because dia ada banyak, kita boleh adjust coding sendiri dalam tu. Yang tu aku, if you can teach me do spatial analysis in GIS, we can collaborate with if I have another future potential friends here.
Boleh ya, pergi Fitri sambung master kat UTM dengan Amirul. Nanti Amirul jadi your tutor ataupun your co-supervisor. Nanti bila lepas dia dah habis PhD nanti, so he will be a doctor. Nanti pergilah berguru kan dia. So because so maksud Amirul is dia cuma ambil segmen, ambil line saja. Macam Excel line lah, tapi ni dia ambil daripada, dia retrieve data from QGIS, QGIS. So and then dia extract masuk ke dalam DevMap. So nanti sama juga ada proses kalau awak buat manually daripada AutoCAD, buat Excel line satu-satu and then save in DXF file dan dia masuk dekat dalam DevMap. But the proses tu nanti misalkan ajar next week ataupun another next week bila sampai masa untuk awak belajar spacing text, sebab diorang belum belajar lagi Amirul spacing text, belum buka lagi DevMap.
Excel sebenarnya kita boleh generate manually juga. Kita notes daripada GIS and then kita just connect notes daripada GIS. Because now kita dah advanced technology, kita nak kena naikkan kita punya intellectual je sekarang. Itu yang problem sikit.
Okay, ada lagi satu soalan. I think this is as our last questions before we end the, okay, ada lagi satu soalan. Okay. Hi, my question is from Nur Ain Muhammad Faris. My question is it spacing text analysis can also inform the policy drive to create more sustainable forms of urban living? So how can spacing text contribute to the policy making ataupun decision making, Amirul?
Spacing text basically is just to describe, because when we produce spacing text like spatial analysis, kita akan tahu yang the policy, does it really the policy, and that one is, does it really policy affect by to help people ke, to help economy, or to help social, or to help certain agenda of a country. Yang itu yang kita can create better, because when kita kalau analyse policy with our, contoh kita main policy with contoh macam RTB ke, rancangan tempatan daerah, dengan policy making, kita tak nampak sangat the policy is focus kat mana. Is it social driven or environmental driven or political driven? Because kita pun tak boleh senang-senang tukar land use, land title, nanti harga tanah akan huru-hara, harga property akan huru-hara, and bank tak akan percaya harga tu, and then economy pun collapse and macam-macam lah. So spacing tax ni dia help us describe better lah, because dia always focus on organic dengan natural punya urban sprawl. So I don't have exactly the exact question that spacing tax can help, but sometimes if you awak orang yang macam mana? Awak orang yang environmental punya orang, and then you have spacing tax, and then you can create better sustainable forms. Kalau you orang yang nak personal gratification for profit making pun tak dapat juga nak buat sustainable form. So because spacing tax is just a dumb calculator, it's just an calculator. Dia macam analisis kosong je. Kita kena masukkan kita punya personality or literature kita.
Okay, so harapnya jawapan Amirul tu menjawab soalan Ain. But for me, I believe that spacing tax is one of the tools that help urban planner or local authority to make the decision in terms of, especially in terms of design. Bila you run the analysis through spacing tax, kita akan dapat result which street ataupun which space is livable, which space is have the higher integration and high connectivity. So and then kalau yang mana yang result dia maybe low integration ataupun low connectivity, so kita akan keep on redesign untuk better outcome. So I believe spacing tax could help. Dia macam GIS juga, dia macam ada software as a tools yang bantu untuk decision making.
Betul.
Right, so the last questions from Hazrini Hassan. Hi Amirul and Miss, I'm Hazrini, Master Architecture graduates from UiTM Puncak Alam. You said earlier that city authorities keep on changing or improve the street enhancement. Does this necessitate a re-evaluation of your data findings or have to start all over again? Okay. So what will happen kalau land use berubah ataupun ada perubahan dekat street, and then is it affect your data?
It will affect my data. I think of this question a lot lah. I think before lockdown, masa lockdown, sampai anxiety, sampai mental depression, sampai jumpa doktor, macam apa yang fikir ialah just two things. I just want to give contribution to the body of knowledge. Even my study is 5 years ago. Second, I just want to complete my research method, so it will be validate my research method. Dah tu je. The next one, and the land use tu orang lain buat atau after this postdoc ke, ataupun kalau orang lain buat. Because tak boleh. The problem with city is designed by so many people lah. Even research also kita kena bagi orang lain buat. Kalau dia dah data tu berubah, that one my junior buat, the new person buat. Kalau tak siap.
Yeah, betul. Sebab our city keep on changes. Ada development baru. Contoh you buat PhD for 4 years. Masa you start your PhD tu, your proposal tu, you rasa that's the very new things that contribute to the new knowledge ataupun your literature, and then nanti bila the next masa setahun kedua dah berubah, ada berubah dekat site berubah, and then the new technology come in, so your punya proposal pun adakah you nak berubah ikut keadaan semasa ataupun you want to proceed apa yang asalnya your proposal. So benda tu memang berlaku dekat dalam research ataupun proposal. So itu I think constraint lah, and then kita pun tak boleh, betul tak Amir? Kita pun tak boleh nak terlalu. So we just focus on what we want to do as long as we have the understanding on our knowledge. Penting lah. Kita tak boleh nak terlalu ikut apa yang berubah. Okay, even manusia pun hari ni lain, esok lain kan. So apatah lagi dengan pembangunan. Right, so thank you Hazrini for the questions. Nanti dia it will never ending process or never ending journey. Nanti sila ambil buat PhD sampai 10 years pula kan. Okay, so I think it's already 12:30. Last word from Amir B, your last word you want to share or you want to give tips to undergraduate. I think most of them is undergraduate students, and we have several from Master Urban Space Design and Master Architecture who joined us. But maybe you have your last word to share with them.
I just want to share that I admire lah you guys that you can have the courage to still study even with this condition, lockdown and everything. Even now that my UTM sekarang dah ada cluster 30, 40, 50 orang, makin naik. Tengah contact tracing tak habis-habis. And then I know that it is hard, but sometimes and thesis is much harder, but the altar of the degree is actually the thesis, because we create our own problem. We formulate our own issues and problem, and then we solve it simultaneously, because that differentiate us from degree holder with another diploma or other CJ certificate holder. I think that's why the thesis is the most emotional part. So I'm amazed that you guys still strong. I think nowadays that I think just take a deep breath and just proceed pelan-pelan process. I think if you need to talk or text, you can text me. Or I think it's a process. I think it's an achievement lah. If you guys still here, sekarang masih dengar, I think I'm not sure. I think tak semua orang boleh faham my talk. I always jump from which point to which point. That's why I don't want to do architecture anymore. So,
but I think planning lagi susah kot Amirul daripada architecture. Architecture, I mean like you just think ataupun you observe in a small scale ataupun micro scale. In terms of kalau urban planning, you have to see policy, you have to see the land use, you have to people, economy, social, lots of things you have to consider bila nak planning kan. But tapi as you say lah, you jenis yang suka berfikir kan, overthinking kan. So I think maybe urban planning suit you lah untuk PhD.
But I always think that urban planning suits to female lah, perempuan. Sorry lah, I think feminism and the empathy, the oxytocin, the nature of considering others. Because male, they always believe in champion punya complexity tau. Kita nak menang je, kita nak nampak bagus.
Ego lah tu. Lelaki kan ada ego tinggi.
Ego tinggi. I think we need more female in the city planning. Dia need balance. Malaysia banyak sangat. Dia buat. Dulu pun saya sebab dah banyak sangat mental illness ni, banyak kali jumpa doktor. So tiba macam, if only the city create by more female, safe for, contoh Space Intact kan boleh describe juga banyak problems, sexual harassment ke apa benda dekat street semua kan. I think kalau kita design with more female, we make a city safe for children, safe for orang tua, older people. So that's ni dah jadi my manifesto lah.
So kita ada, I think kalau in Malaysia we have a few like Datuk Maimunah Sharif, the UN representative, UN director. So she is a female, and then kita pun memang kurang MP among female. Kita ada Nuriza, kita ada YB Hanayo, who else lagi? So lelaki memanglah dia suka overpower, dia suka show ego. I mean like in terms of decision making kan, dia mana boleh kalau even dalam kelas pun your coordinator mesti lelaki, jarang coordinator project perempuan, betul? Perempuan mesti jadi assistant. Coordinator yang lead the project must be male. I think because of maybe culture kita lebih respect lelaki because we believe that lelaki ni full of leadership skill. Perempuan ni lebih kepada follower, lebih kepada mengikut. So I think that's the nature lah. Maybe our culture, adab kita memang asalnya begitu. So dia terbawa sampai ke city planning, urban planning. But I think it's a very good nasihat daripada Amirul. So all the women out there, semua student perempuan, so you have to bukan overrule, you have to be more power than men. So men jangan rasa ego tercabar pula. Kita kena this is not the feminism, but tapi I think should be balanced lah, spatial injustice. Kita nak make sure kita nak female and male together, make our city better, make our city a safe place for children, for women especially, sebab kita, and then you tengok banyak case sexual harassment among women, even dekat public space, dekat ruang terbuka pun boleh berlaku sexual harassment. So you as a town planner, you as a designer, you have to think in that way. Macam mana nak make sure our street selamat untuk perempuan, selamat untuk kanak-kanak, and safe for everyone. Okay, alright. I think we can end the session today. So thank you so much, Amirul, for joining us, and thank you your friends from UTM for joining us. I hope that this talk really helped the students, undergraduate students, master students, all the students who joined us today, help you maybe for your thesis proposal ataupun your knowledge on how we observe, how we use city sepatutnya in a more effective way. Okay, so our last session maybe kita boleh group photo. Azila boleh ambil gambar nanti, kita group photo. So everyone should turn on your camera, especially student part 6 ni attendance ni. So turn on your camera. So Azila will screenshot. Semua orang kena turn on camera. Okay, sekejap. Dia lagi Nadia, Ajatul.
Muka saya nampak kan? Because my screen dah corrupt ni.
Nampak? Ya, sekejap gelap, sekejap terang. No, tu. Okay, Amira, Cahayati. Who else? Okay, ready? Okay, Azila, screenshot je. Diorang ni sekejap ada, sekejap tak ada. Nah, senyumlah tengok kamera tu seseorang. Okay. Amirul gelap. We can't see you. Okay. Once again, Azila. Baru nampak Amirul. Okay, alright. Okay, so thank you Azila, thank you everyone for joining us. Maybe Amirul boleh drop your email address ataupun your Twitter tadi dia tu. So maybe kalau ada students yang nak tanya you, soalan ke boleh communicate with you. I think better email ataupun Twitter kot, not your private number, your personal number. Nanti personal number nanti orang lain pula yang DM nanti, yang WhatsApp nanti. Okay, right, and then for those participants, so don't forget to register yourself dekat Google Form, link Google Form yang Miss dengan Azila dah share. So we will send you your e-certificate by this evening. Siapa yang join je, siapa yang register je, siapa yang register, we're not giving you the e-certificate. Alright, so thank you everyone, thank you Amirul for your time, good luck for your PhD, hopefully boleh habis on time. And we see you in JB insyaAllah. Bila Miss balik JB boleh rentas daerah dan negeri. I think almost 8 month dah tak balik JB. I don't know what happened in JB right now. Mungkin dah ada 10 lagi shopping mall yang dah naik. Mungkin dah ada new highway.
Yep. Banyak.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. All the best everyone. Thank you Amirul. See you next time. Yeah. Bye. So Azila nanti this is the first time Miss tengok muka awak. So nanti kita jumpa secara virtual je lah. So nanti Google Form awak tu tengok nama yang dah register. So far dah tengok dah berapa orang register?
Tadi ada dalam 68 macam tu.
Quite ramai juga, yalah betul sebab Miss tengok dalam 70 orang juga join. Okay, so awak free tak untuk buat sijil?
Boleh.
Okay, tak apa nanti.
Sekarang ni ada respon 67.
Okay. So okay lah tu 67 sijil yang awak akan keluarkan. So tak apa buat lambat-lambat. Email seorang-seorang pun tak apa, tak ada masalah. Nak buat besok pun tak ada masalah lah. Sebab selalunya pun kalau kita attend workshop pun bukannya on the spot pun dapat e-certificate kan. Kadang-kadang seminggu baru dapat.
Okay.
So buat slow-slow, nanti apa-apa nanti beritahu Miss.
Okay, boleh.
Okay, yang gambar screenshot tu share dekat WhatsApp lah dengan Miss.
Boleh.
Alright, okay, thank you so much Azila, tolong Miss. Kalau awak tak ada, Miss rasa malas nak buat semua benda lah ni. Nak buat e-certificate lah, itulah apa benda lah. Right, okay. So thank you so much. Jumpa lagi. Nanti keep in touch dekat WhatsApp
Okay.
Alright, okay, bye.
Bye.